Good morning, everyone. It's Wednesdays with Willa, and I'm just about to start the Blog Talk Radio show. It's going to start up. Wait a second. This is always the fun part of getting all the technology together for the show to happen. So this week, everything is successfully a go, and we're going to have a fun time chatting with each other.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Lilydale Radio, featuring topics about spiritualism, mediumship, healing, spirituality, and the Lilydale Assembly, the world's largest center for the religion, philosophy, and science of spiritualism. This is Lilydale Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White. And it is a cold Wednesday morning in Lilydale. It said 9 degrees this morning, but at real feel, -7. So just giving you the weather report today. And today's show, my guest was supposed to be Patricia Price. I got the call this morning. She can't make it, folks, but we are going to reschedule her for another date to talk about right, left brain. And I know, we were all geared up, but we're going to talk about something else today I think you'll have a lot of fun with. We're going to talk about mediumship and how to recognize spirit contact. And this, for those of you who are watching on Facebook, this is my reading room. But when I have a guest, I have to use the table. So, because to have everything together and to have us be seen together. So, yes, I'm glad you like the new setting. Anytime I fly solo, this is where I'll be, because I can do it here. Good morning to everyone as you're coming on. So for Wednesdays with Willa, what I do, this is my show that happens every Wednesday at 10 a.m. I have a different topic. I try to have a guest on each week, or sometimes I do fly solo, but I have different spiritual topics that we talk about, or we talk about mediumship, because as a registered medium, that's near and dear to my heart, and a lot of people have questions about how mediumship works and how they can recognize spirit contact, and I love talking about that. Clients, a lot of times when I'm in a reading with a client, people in spirit will verify and confirm the ways that they are showing up in a client's life. So it's a lot of fun. And I hope that you call in and maybe share some of your spiritual experiences. I think the more people talk about it, the better, because usually in mainstream culture, you're able to talk about football, or maybe talk about work, or those kinds of elements, talk about the kids. But it's something that when it comes to spirit contact, some people don't have those accessible people to really share and bare their soul to. And a lot of people have had spiritual experiences, and when they're able to share that with somebody else, they get the confirmation and the delight. And so I hope that you can call in today and share with us. The call-in number is 818-739-8818. So if you want to interact with me on the show, you can call in and do that. And I've taught recognizing spirit contact before at Jamestown Community College, and it's a very popular class, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to do that on the radio show today. So you kind of get a free class, everyone. But whenever I teach a class, it's very hands-on and interactive, so that's what I'd like it to be today. So again, the call-in number is 818-739-8818. And for those of you who are just joining, Patricia Price was not able to make it today. She's so sorry. And she really wanted to be here. But we will have her on another day, because we love Patricia. And we will talk about right, left brain and how that works in mediumship. Today we'll talk about recognizing spirit contact in your life and what that's about. So I first started seeing spirit when I was a little girl. And my parents, of course, didn't make me feel strange or weird about it. And some of the instances that I experienced with spirit, I didn't even share with them. And I've not really been scared by spirit. I've been, because I know that I am very protected. I've felt my angels around me, guarding me, and early on in my experience and fine-tuning my spiritual gifts, I learned how to put myself in charge of what energy is allowed in. And so I do recommend that you get very into an even mind space. Harry Edwards was a very famous medium and spiritual teacher in England, and he said that it's a requirement if you're going to be a professional medium to be of even mind. And so that's why I encourage clients that when they're having spirit contact, that they're of even mind, and you'll have better results if you're in a joyful centered place rather than in an upset place, or what I like to call a spook and boo place. Because spirit contact for me is a sacred and fun experience, and it's something that, while I can be lighthearted about it, it means a lot to me, and so I don't just willy-nilly leaky faucet everywhere. I do it in a very purposeful way, because that helps me to be 100% when I'm in a reading or when I'm doing messages at the stump or the temple. Is because I have done what I need to do to prepare myself for those moments. So what do I do as a medium to prepare myself for that? Well, I do meditate. Because I am a mother and a wife and chief cook and bottle washer, I try to take little snatches in my day, and I encourage people to eat spiritual food, like read snatches of spiritual words from books, because I nibble on that throughout the day, or I do calming breaths, and I get myself centered again. And I make sure that I have some time for solitude, because that's very important for me. Or taking a walk and just allowing that fresh air, kind of air myself out, as it were. And there are lots of ways to do that. But I really try to raise the vibration. So when a medium talks about raising the vibration, they're wanting to bring in that which is joyful, that which is peaceful. And so a low energy is very angry, upset, when people close themselves off. And I've noticed this, that when somebody's frustrated that they haven't had spirit contact with their loved one, they're like, I haven't heard from them, I don't understand, we said we were going to talk and I haven't felt them, and you can just feel like their aura is like, nothing's going to be coming through that. Some people have what I call the porcupine fortress, and it's like, it's up around them, and you want to be permeable, you want to be open to a great degree. And I encourage people in your own homes, like in that kind of quiet moment, give yourself a quiet moment. So many people are rushed. They're not giving themselves time to be purposeful in their spirit contact. So get into that space of, I accept, and I'm not going to demand. I will make a request. And so, because in our interactions here on the earth plane, all you can do really is make a request. If you demand, another person is not necessarily going to cave to your demands, and the energy that you direct in that way, they're going to put their shields up, and it's not going to be a good communication. So it is with spirit. You want to be in a gentle request mode with that, and allow things to unfold in divine right timing, divine right order. And so you have your side of the homework to do, and they're also learning the ropes on how to do things. So some people go over to the other side and they immediately get it, and other people, it takes them a while. So they have to have training wheels, so to speak, and it's something that we have to be patient with them about, and patient with ourselves, just like we have to be patient with people being at various spiritual levels here on the earth plane. So when I'm preparing for a reading, I'm setting that intention of connecting with that which is the highest and best good for my client. And so it's a very sacred, protected space. And those of you who have had a reading with me know that we say a prayer. And that sets that spiritual intention for the work that we're doing. So say a prayer. And that's a way of raising the vibration. And, do this with sincerity and the hopefulness and the idea of faith and trust. So when I go out to the Forest Temple or Inspiration Stump to do public message services, I don't know what's going to come through. I have to completely throw myself into the safety net of the universe, that everything's going to be okay and everything's going to be all right. Because you get to a place of, you realize it's not about you, it's about serving spirit and having faith. So spontaneously that will occur. So they call a medium up. In my case, if they call my name up, I settle myself and I kind of get like a little butterfly in my stomach, and that's not me being nervous necessarily or stage fright. That's a different kind of feeling. It's me revving up because I'm strongly clairsentient. So I'll start to feel that bubbling away, as it were, and then I can feel this all-encompassing love, because our loved ones in spirit love us so deeply and want to connect. When it's your turn to pass, you're going to want to visit your folks. You're going to want to check in on them. Depending on how nosy you are, you're going to want to, give them advice sometimes. But I do tell my people who come for readings, if you weren't going to listen to them when they were here, you might not want to listen to them now. Sometimes they're very full of their own opinions, their own ideas about how things should unfold, and you ultimately need to be listening to your own soul and make your decisions accordingly. So when it comes to having spirit contact, it's important to know what's yours, what's theirs. And because I'm strongly clairsentient, I feel spirit. So I feel what it feels like to be them when they were here. I try to ask what it was like before they passed. So if they had physical issues, I feel that. Sometimes I'll feel a stroke or a heart attack or breathing issues, or I can feel that it's cancer because I feel like I'm being eaten. And you do have to tap into that imaginative side of yourself, because imagination and intuition, I like to say that they live in the same house. So intuition uses imagination to convey information. So if you're in that space of, it almost feels like you're pretending, but you're not, because it's verified. A person's like, yes, that's exactly what happened, and that's exactly what so-and-so was like. And so I can feel their personality. I focus on bringing the essence of that spirit through. What it felt like to be them, what they feel toward the client, what kind of relationship they have. Sometimes they'll talk about the dynamics of relationships they had with other people, and sometimes they'll show me things, because I'm also clairvoyant, so I'll see things. Sometimes I'll see them externally, but a lot of times I'll see them internally in that mind's eye space. And we all have that movie screen. Some people are more adept at clairvoyance than others, and it's something that you can definitely bring out more. So I encourage you, if you are interested at all in this, that you find classes, that you find ways to fine-tune your gifts so that you understand them more. What is it in Spider-Man? With great power comes great responsibility. So you have this responsibility to manifest your spiritual gifts, and God has given us these abilities so that we can spread love, spread joy, spread healing to the world. So if this is something that manifests in you that you want to help people with, you'll feel that energy of called to do this by the divine. So as I was saying, sometimes I'll see things, and sometimes they'll take me to their house that they used to live in, or the client's house, and they'll describe things, or if renovations are going on, they're like, "Oh, you just renovated the kitchen, and I really like this," and they'll give it to me, and I'll describe it, and the person's like, "Yeah, that's exactly what's going on," and I'll say, "And they like that you put this special memorial for them here," and so they kind of give me a little tour sometimes. They don't do that in every reading, and it's something that spontaneously occurs. It's not necessarily that I can request that the client can say, "Well, if they're really here, they'll tell you about such and such." It doesn't work that way, because if we talked about left right brain today, I explain this more deeply, but I'll just say, if I switch into that demand, I demand to know this, it gets me into left brain, and it shuts down a lot of the what I'm receiving from right brain, because right brain is that space of strong intuition. So I have to just kind of flow and go, like it's a conversation that's developing in that moment, and I can't necessarily preset, and I want to know this. Once I've established contact with a person in spirit, or sometimes several folks in spirit, and we had the identifiers that come through, a lot of times they'll tell me who they are. They're like, I'm their dad. They're showing me the symbol for dad, so I know it's your dad, and that he had this, and this is what he was like, and this is how your relationship was, and yes, yes, yes from the client. And then they'll talk about what's going on in their life, and they're showing that to show that they care. And then they'll start talking about people around them, and then the client can really start asking questions, and it is a conversation, and I kind of put myself into the role of the interpreter. So, and it is a bit like playing charades. So I'm like, okay, so that's the symbol that means this to me, and this is what they're showing to me. It's not quite sounds like necessarily, unless it's about a name, because sometimes Dan and Don sound about the same to me, and things like that, where they're just really or it's like Evie or Evelyn or Evelyn, like, and I'm trying to figure out what it is they're giving me, and I try not to fill in the blank, because that's my left brain engaging. I want to just stay in the flow of it. And then sometimes once I've established that we have connected with spirit, and if they ask for someone else, I'll ask them for the name, and then I'll set. Sometimes I have to move the people I've been talking to in spirit aside. I'm like, you guys have to move, because they will swamp me, and I'll only feel them. So I'll try to move them to the side, and then I'll try to focus in on that person and call them in a bit closer. And 9 times out of 10, that happens, and we're able to make that contact. But it's, again, more of a gentle request that occurs, rather than, I demand you show yourself. My client wants to see you, and you better show up or they're going to be unhappy. It's more of like, we just have to see what happens. It's an experimental session. It's not something that I can control per se. I can guide it, but it's something that unfolds in the moment, and I can't preset or make them talk about anything if they don't want to. I mean, we all have that prerogative. We're not going to necessarily talk about everything that somebody else wants to. It's a conversation. And sometimes when multiple people are coming through in spirit, it's some people who are stronger personality, they'll try to take over, and the ones that are more meek and they kind of stay off to the side, and it's just that dynamic, like if we were sitting at the dinner table together. Or sometimes some folks will hog a lot of the session because that's their way. And it's like you just got quartered in at the party, and that's who wants to talk with you. And you don't necessarily get to talk to all the rest of the folks, but that's okay, because you got what you needed with them. And so it's very special. And I love what I do. I love watching it unfold, because it's an adventure. It's always different and new and fresh to me, because I don't keep what Spirit's giving to me. I have to let that go and flow. So when it comes to me recognizing spirit, that's how it works. I also, I'll hear, sometimes not exactly, but I'll hear things, and I'll see, I'll feel, I'll just know things because they'll give it to me like that. I'll taste or smell things. Sometimes I'll taste, I remember I tasted blueberries, and they're like, that was their favorite thing they would eat. They'd eat it all the time. So sometimes they'll give me favorite foods. Sometimes I'll smell smoke of different varieties. And sometimes I will smell farm smells, or it just depends. And it's spirit contact, when they give you smells, it's very pungent. And other people can't necessarily smell it, but you're smelling it, and it's very pungent and very strong, and there's no reason for you to be smelling it at that time. Like, you've ruled out, like, scientifically, there's nothing producing this odor. And as soon as you recognize the smell, it goes away. And so it's just interesting how spirit works. And spirit is very fast, so they'll give you a piece of information and then they're moving on. So sometimes people wonder, well, why don't they stay and talk a long time with me, and why can't I see them for like a half hour? And it doesn't work that way. They're on a different vibrational frequency. We have dense physical material, and they are a different vibrational frequency, and we're living multidimensionally. And we just kind of have a little window to share things with. And it's beautiful that we even get the chance to do that God has given us the ability to stay in touch if we so desire, and if we are of right practice and right intention. There's so much more I can say about this. But I see that I've got a caller, so I want to see about... let's see. I guess there's a caller here. I'm going to see if they're ready for me to take their call. It's 2158. It's a call ending in 2158. Let's see what happens. Let's see. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Dolores, and I am calling from Pennsylvania.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we're talking about mediumship and spiritual experiences and things like that. And have you had experiences with spirit yourself?
Yes, I have.
And what would you like to share with us today? What's something that happened?
Sometimes, and I haven't really tuned into it totally. I'm working on that part.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really new to it, but since I was a child, I remember, first of all, I grew up in a very Roman Catholic, so I went to Catholic school my whole entire life, but I would always feel things.
Mm-hmm.
I'd kind of look around. I wonder if everybody else is having this same feeling. You know how you feel things drift through you?
Yes.
And I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to sit here real still.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll all be okay. And sometimes I'll hear things like something saying, I'll hear not voices, but I'll hear like, I guess you would say a word of knowledge.
Oh, good, good.
I'll have a pain, or my stomach will cramp up, and I'm like, okay, whatever that is if that's not mine, and you need to
Right.
move on.
Yes,
somewhere
good.
else. Or I'll try to say, what is this about, or I'll try to, ground with it.
That's good, and I'm so glad to hear that
I didn't
you...
know if you were doing any type.
I'm so glad to hear that you know enough to say that's not mine. That's so good, because sometimes people kind of get into this idea of what am I feeling, and then they permit that to continue, and it's unhealthy for them. So for everybody who's tuning in today, if you feel something and you know it's from spirit and you know it's not yours, you need to just acknowledge it as a piece of information. Sometimes I tell people, it's like driving down the highway, and you have billboards on the side of the road, and it's telling you about the different places that are coming up, the different exits and what they have. And that's the way it is with people. When you get these pieces of information, you say, oh, so-and-so is going through this. They may need some help. Or so-and-so from Spirit's visiting me and wanted to say a quick hi. So it's just pieces of information, and we don't need to take them on. So I'm so glad you figured that out, Dolores. That's good. And it's something that as you develop your own mediumship, you don't have to take it to professional level, or you can. It just depends on where you feel right about it and the training. I think training is very important for fine-tuning of things, because then you really understand your own, what some people call their psychic dictionary, of what their symbols and what those all mean. So when you have felt spirit around you and you've had a physical impression, have you just received that, or have you received additional information beyond that, like that you would know who they are?
I can't figure out who they are. Sometimes
Okay.
I can. Sometimes I see my uncle. Sometimes I see my cousin.
Okay.
Sometimes I can hear my grandma.
So when you see them, what is it that you
Yes,
see? What is it that you see exactly?
It's just an impression of who they are in my head.
Okay, so you see it.
I can feel them near.
Okay, so you see them in your mind's eye then.
Right.
And when is there a certain time?
Okay, there you are.
Is there a certain time that you sense them more than others, or that you feel that they're showing up for you in that way?
You know, it's really sporadic. Sometimes it'll be like 4 a.m. in the morning. I'll wake up and I'm like, okay.
Uh-huh.
Or it'll be late in the afternoon, or there's times where I'm really frustrated with life and a certain person will come in.
Ah, and
Talk to me about it.
and comfort you during that.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So see,
There is
spirit.
something, sometimes they want to touch me and I say, no, don't touch me.
Well,
Think about touching me. I don't want them to touch me.
Well, it's something that you can absolutely set. I've had to tell people that you're in charge of your own energy. But the thing to keep in mind, from what you've already told me, you're an empath and you connect with spirit on a physical level. So you're going to feel like they're touching you. That's how you receive information. So you need to make a decision. Do you want to feel spirit or not? I mean, you can't go, I want spirit to visit me, but don't touch me. That's like saying, okay, our only form of communication is email me, but don't email me. So you have to make a
But I
decision.
wasn't sure.
What aren't you sure about?
I wasn't sure if it was okay for their energy to touch mine.
Oh, you mean,
It was like,
are you worried that they'll take over or something? Or what's...
yeah, not take over, but like that energy would interfere with my energy. And I've gone through this up and down of like some energy healing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a tendency to absorb other people's energy,
Uh-huh.
and so I'm just really shy on the energy side of going, whoa, I can't take that.
So, at the end of the month, my special guest will be Judith Rochester, and we're going to be talking about spirit guides. And so I suggest you tune in for that one. But when it comes to working as a medium and in a mediumistic way, it's good if you start to recognize that you have people around you that help you, that are from spirit. So your spirit guides, we're going to talk about it more in 2 weeks, but we have people that help us through our spiritual journey, that help us through our mediumship journeys. And one of them is called the gatekeeper or the doorkeeper, or however people want to term that. And they're kind of in charge of who's allowed to come in around you. So I call them the bouncer, like at a bar. And if so-and-so's not on the list, they can't come in, if you understand. And they're the ones that boot people.
Gotcha.
So you work with your different spirit guides and understand that you've got protectors that are going to assist you with this, and move into a space of trust about it. and knowing that you recognize that you tend to attract energy and receive things physically, that means you need to work on clearing. That's something that I do regularly to clear myself, and to not take it on and not take it personally and not let it reside in my physical body. So I encourage you to keep up with those practices, but also work with your spirit helpers that they want to help you. They want you to say, okay guys, help me with this. And eventually it will be on an automatic pilot. You'll just be like, oh, they know their job. I know they know their job. I'm not going to micromanage this. But I do recommend that if you don't want to have spirit contact at certain times, that you kind of like a hotel room where it has a do not disturb sign that you can put on the door. You don't have to actually make a physical one unless you really think you need it, but you can energetically say do not disturb. So for me, other people's spirits are not allowed to bother me when I'm sleeping, and it's just not cool. I'm like, nope, you're not allowed there. But I do try to keep appointments that I make with those in spirit. So if I notice something throughout my day that I can feel a spirit coming in around me, but I don't want to do it right then, I set an appointment with them. And I'll say, come back at 1 o'clock. Or come back at 8 in the morning. And then I make sure that I'm there and I'm present, and I take a moment and I get myself quiet and meditative, and I show up. So remember, you're in charge of your schedule. Just like here on the earth plane, people have to make appointments with you, right? I mean, sometimes you could allow some spontaneity, but by and large, you're in charge of who you allow into your energy, right? So it's the same thing with spirit. Be strong in that. I've had so many professional psychics and mediums come to me for readings, and it's a number one thing, and they're not necessarily taught that, but it's something that my mother reinforced with me early on, and Lily Dale training definitely backed that up, that you're in charge. So keep that in mind. So that you can use your bouncer. The
only person I've tried to connect with, and I never can connect with her, is my grandmother on my mother's side. And I'm not sure why I can't make that connection.
Well, sometimes if people want to have deliberate contact with a person in spirit, and they haven't felt that for whatever reason, sometimes I'll ask my other people in spirit, what's going on with them? I mean, it's not gossip, you know. It's like, hey, what's going on with them? Like, where is she? And then figure out what they tell you. But another good thing that you can do is, if you have anything that, when you think about her, that you can tune into. If you had something that used to belong to her, or a picture of her, or something that is from that side of the family, or even if you just tune into her name, you can bring that forward a lot more in a deliberate fashion, but again, not in a demand. See, there's a different kind of energy when there's a demand to it, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Versus the request.
Yes.
So I would encourage you.
Look for her and I can't find her. It's not me demanding her to come to me. I'm always
Right.
just like, looking for her, like searching for her.
Well, ask your folks in spirit about it. Just say, "Hey, what's going on with Grandma?" and see what happens. And you may feel that she's on a different plane of existence. She's not communicating on that level, and that's fine. And then you'll be able to kind of let that go for a while. Or you may get a sense of, well, actually, she visited you a couple years ago, and you missed it because you were focusing in on this. So sometimes people forget that people in spirit have things they're doing, you have things you're doing, and so things kind of have to match up right for spirit communication to happen on those levels. So like when a person's coming for a reading with me, they'll ask, well, what can I do to prepare for my reading? And I'll say, well, I have suggestions for receiving a reading on my website, so you can take a look at things there. But one of the best things you can do is say, hey, you guys, I've got an appointment, show up. And that works really well. So, like, you put it out there to show up on such and such a day, and such a time, and if they can make it, they will, with bells on. And that's how that works. So you can set an appointment of intention that you're going to be open at that time, that they're going to be open at that time, and allow things to unfold and flow. So I hope that really helps you to fine-tune things. But it's going to take practice. It's going to take you being consistent and starting to understand your own energy and how you work energetically. So I'm excited for you because you have, here you are growing.
My girlfriend and I, we're going to come and visit you sometime in March. Just kind of get a lay of the land. And then we want to come back in the summer.
Yes.
We have spring break with the university, so it's a good time for us. I know it'll probably be really cold and snowy, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's how it is here. But yeah, and then the summer program is going to be coming out soon, so you're going to want to take a look at who's, if you're interested in certain presenters, and then work from there. So great, Dolores. Thank you so much for calling in today and sharing.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So we had a lot to talk about, didn't we? So these are common questions, and these are common concerns, and very normal, folks. Don't worry. Oh my goodness. I can't believe the show goes so fast. So if anybody wanted to call in really quickly, you can. It's 818-739-8818 if anybody wanted to share some more spiritual experiences. But so I've given you some tips on how to deal with some common things that come up when it comes to spirit contact and mediumship. And I really can't reinforce enough the idea that it's a request, and to keep yourself in that sacred energy. That's why I encourage people to kind of get away from that spook and boo and haunted stuff that, the movies and TV tend to portray it as. If you're coming at it from the highest and best, if you're coming at it from that situation within yourself, that's what you're going to attract. And it's a lot of fun. And some people are really surprised how much they laugh during a reading with me, but there's joy and there are tears, but there are ways to process things so that they don't have to be wounds anymore. Because there's a lot that is healed when somebody has had true spirit contact. It's a relief to them to know that their loved ones in spirit love them, and that they will continue to check in on them as they can, and that there's a lot that they trust in and support. They can't do things for us because we have free will. And so that's why when it comes, like, so let's say somebody is asking a future question, that's not really what we do as mediums. We can offer you their opinion of what they feel about a person or situation, what they feel to be the higher probability of outcome, but you need to be listening to your own soul. And so when people have this understanding that they can connect with people who have passed, and they realize that that is the proof in the pudding that we have souls, and people start to live from a more soulful space in their own lives after they've had spirit contact on that level, that they start to realize that there's a soul purpose for them of joy and happiness, and that has to be something that they explore. It's definitely what I would call a byproduct of mediumship and spirit contact. And so I would encourage you all to get really clear within your own soul about things. Because one of the goals of mediumship is the evidence of a life, and that it did have meaning, that how we live matters, the intention of that. And we can't always be perfect. We strive, we're human, we have human moments, mistakes happen, and we learn from our errors. And we try to pick ourselves up and move forward with joy as much as possible. And remember that you truly are unsinkable. The idea of unsinkable Molly Brown on the Titanic, she's the one you're going to want in your lifeboat. And that we have that element of her within us. And so sometimes people come with deep grief that they've been swamped with. Because it's not just about missing a person, because there is that, but there's also missing the habit of them. The day in, the day out of them, and the interaction with them, and how do you countenance that? How do you move through that? So a lot of times the folks in spirit, they recognize what's going on with the client, and they want to help, and they gather in with great love. And through reading, a client starts to discover that, and you can see like a change of energy come over them, and it's very, very special. And those are some of the moments I just really love. And then they start to open, and then they start to practice that more and more, mind, body, spirit, aligning for that greater purpose, and the gratitude of experiencing love with other people. And our loved ones in spirit want us to live gloriously and joyously. They don't want us to be mired down in grief. A lot of them like to be missed, but they don't want to be the excuse for someone not moving forward. And they, do what they can from their side of things to help. So we've talked about those different elements. Oh my goodness, time's going so fast. I wanted to also mention when you're doing spirit contact, and some people think, oh, it's got to be dark, and it's got to be, to set the moon and the tone or whatever. And I personally, I like soft lighting, but it does not have to be dark, and it doesn't have to be all like, ooh, like that. It's just got to be sacred. So bring that sacred intention to whatever you're doing when it comes to spirit contact, and it will be a beautiful experience to connect with people in spirit, and they'll give you different identifiers. I remember when I was first starting to really understand my mediumship, and so long ago now, but I remember I was meditating, and I distinctly felt my grandfather with me, and he was flooding me with images, and he was sharing things about, and I had that verified, some of it verified with my mom, and I said, but I just don't understand. He made my thumbs go numb, and she said, I never told you, but he had frostbite thumbs, and that's why that came through. So you may not always know why they do something like that. You may have to ask other people, or you may have to ask your spirit guides, why aren't they giving that to me? And they'll do the best they can to answer the question. They really will. And there are times where they can't answer it at that time, but it will, if it's something that's important for you to know, it'll be given to you again. Because people go, oh my goodness, am I missing the messages from my loved ones? Because they have this guilt. Like, oh no, I've not been paying attention, and I want you, if you're one of those people that gets into the guilt thing, I want you to let it go right now, because guilt is another thing that's going to get in your way when it comes to spirit contact. There are only two kinds of energy. And we'll have to talk about it another day. But there's qualified and unqualified energy. And you want to be in a joy, peace space rather than in an anger, fear, resentment space or guilt.
90 seconds.
90 seconds. Okay, so we will have Patricia Bryce on another day. And she can't wait to come. And she had things she was going to share. And so just know that she will be here another day. Next week, Ron Nagy is the Lilydale historian. He's the one who runs the Lilydale Museum. He's going to come. We're going to talk about Lilydale history. I have some very specific things. So let's Ask the Historian Day. So call in with questions you might have for Ron. And then the following week after that, Judith Rochester will be on about spirit guides. So that'll be a lot of fun. I hope you guys can tune in for that. And I've got a whole lineup in the months to come. So there are other shows to tune into. Tuesday, 8 p.m., Colleen Bearzine, Embracing Your Essence. Wednesday morning with me. Wednesday night at 8 o'clock with John White, Journey of Light. And then Thursday morning, Celeste has the show Wake Up with Spirit. Wake Up to Spirit, I think it is, at 10 a.m. So you can tune into those shows in the week. It's a nice program for everybody to tune into the Lilydale radio shows. And I really appreciate everyone's kind attention today. And I'm so glad you're able to join me. And I'm so grateful that the technology worked and that you're able to enjoy both sides of things. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. Lots of love to all of you. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoyed Wednesdays with Willa. Oh, and you can like and you can share my Facebook page, which is Willa White Medium, and you can follow different things that are going on with that. And then also, you can find out more about the other shows if you go to blogtalkradio.com/LilydaleRadio. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Stay warm.